My name is Grace. I'm 28 years old. The first sound I remember was the bathroom lock upstairs snapping open too fast. A thin metallic click, sharp enough to cut through the kitchen before the toaster even finished popping. Then came my little sister's footsteps across the upstairs hallway, quick and uneven, like she was trying to outrun something that was still clinging to her skin. I turned from the counter with a warm coffee mug in my hand and saw Ava coming down the stairs in an oversized gray sweatshirt, shoulders folded inward, eyes fixed so hard on the floor it looked painful. The house smelled like burnt toast, lemon cleaner, and laundry detergent still warm from the dryer. Morning light pushed through the blinds in narrow gold bars striping the hardwood, the white cabinets. And the clean kitchen I had spent 3 straight weekends painting myself after we bought the townhouse outside Raleigh. Behind me, my husband Daniel leaned against the island with his travel mug in one hand, half dressed for work, calm as a weather report. "Everything okay?" He said it softly, almost gently. Ava flinched. It was tiny, a quick catch in her neck, a blink too hard, a step too careful on the last stair, small enough that another person might have missed it. But once I saw it, I couldn't stop seeing it. Daniel was wearing that pressed blue button-down that always made him look like the kind of man people trusted immediately, the kind of man strangers asked to take family photos, the kind of man who held doors open, returned shopping carts, smiled at old women in parking lots, and got called such a good one by people who had no idea what they were praising. My stomach shifted before my thoughts did. At dinner that night, Ava barely touched her pasta. I asked if she felt sick. She said, "Just tired." Daniel reached for the parmesan and smiled at her like some patient, thoughtful older brother. "Big exam week, right?" Ava nodded without looking up. He answered things for her sometimes. That had been happening more and more. At the time, I did not have a word for it, just a discomfort, a strange little abrasion in the room every time he stepped in and took over a silence that wasn't his. Ava had moved in with us 7 months earlier, right after our mother's third eviction in 2 years, and our stepfather's latest drunk promise that things were finally about to turn around. They never turned around. When they just circled the drain with new speeches, Ava was 19 then, starting community college, trying very hard to act like chaos had not followed her into adulthood. I told her our townhouse had rules, sure, but it also had groceries that stayed in the cabinets, a clean bathroom, hot water that didn't run out after 6 minutes, and a front door nobody slammed at 2 in the morning. I told her she could breathe there. Daniel had seemed supportive. That part still makes me sick. He carried her boxes up to the guest room. He helped build her desk. He joked about the DMV line being longer than a prison sentence when I took her to get a new state ID. At Thanksgiving, he stood in my aunt's kitchen carving turkey while my cousins smiled at me like I had won something and said, Daniel's one of the good ones. Predators love applause. They love being handed a reputation before anybody checks the locks. At first, the changes in Ava were quiet enough to excuse. She stopped sitting in the living room after dinner. She started wearing hoodies even when the North Carolina heat sat heavy in the 90s. She kept her bedroom door locked more often. She jumped when her phone buzzed. If I asked whether she wanted to come to Target or Starbucks, she said yes too fast, like leaving mattered more than where we were going. Then the pattern got louder. She never wanted to be home alone with Daniel, not once. If I said I needed to run to Walmart for paper towels and cat litter, she was tying her shoes before I finished the sentence. If I was upstairs folding towels and Daniel came down the hall, Ava found a reason to go downstairs. If he walked into a room, she found an exit. She stopped wearing shorts around the house. Sometimes she ate standing up at the kitchen counter, fast and half turned away, like meals were something to survive instead of enjoy. One Saturday, I asked her if school was crushing her. We were in the laundry room, warm air from the dryer pressing against our legs. I was matching socks. She was pretending to scroll her phone. You've been somewhere else lately, I said. She shrugged. I'm fine. You don't seem fine. I'm just trying not to be a burden. That word landed wrong. Burden. I set the towels down. You are not a burden. This is your home too. She stared at the detergent shelf instead of me. I know. Then, Daniel's voice came from the hallway. Grace. Did you see my keys? Ava's whole body went tight before she covered it with a cough. I answered. Entry table. He appeared a second later anyway, one hand braced on the frame, smiling like he had every right in the world to fill a doorway and hold it. He glanced at Ava. You okay, kid? Kid? I hated that word from him before I understood why. There was something fake about it. A costume word, a witness word, a way to sound safe in front of me. Ava muttered that she was fine and grabbed a basket she did not need. She left too fast. Daniel kissed my cheek after she passed. She's having a rough adjustment, he said. Don't push too hard. I almost listened. That part haunts me. Because women are trained to distrust ourselves in clean kitchens. We imagine danger better in alleys than breakfast nooks. What we expect evil to come in loud colors. We do not expect it to refill the Brita pitcher. We do not expect it to hang Christmas lights. We do not expect it to smile at neighbors and ask whether anybody needs gas in the car. December made the whole house look softer than it was. I hung white lights across the porch rail. Ava helped me wrap garland around the banister. Daniel carried storage bins from the garage and played old holiday music from his phone, while the air outside smelled like cold dirt and pine. In photos, we looked like the kind of couple people save as proof they chose right. Ava stopped smiling with her teeth around then. I noticed because of our Christmas card picture. The photographer at the little downtown studio told us to angle closer. But Daniel put his hand at the small of my back and told Ava to stand beside me. She folded inward, smile thin, chin tipped away. When the proofs came back, Daniel laughed and said she just looked awkward because teenagers hated pictures. She was not a teenager. She was a frightened girl learning how to disappear while standing still. January came with rain, bills, school forms, and that flat gray winter light that makes every room feel a little tired. That was when Daniel started asking strange practical questions. What time did Ava's classes end? Whether she had made friends yet, if she had plans on Fridays, whether she still locked her bedroom door at night, because that seems kind of extreme in a safe neighborhood. He said all of it lightly, casually, so casually that his tone became part of the trap. But concern wrapped around intrusion, reason wrapped around surveillance, enough calm to make me feel irrational for noticing. One Tuesday, a client canceled and I came home early. I parked under the carport and walked in through the garage with a Starbucks cup in one hand and a folder from the county clerk's office tucked under my arm because I had renewed a notary document for work that morning. The house was quiet except for the TV downstairs. Then I heard Daniel. Not his public voice, not the warm one. The sound came from the upstairs landing. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I stopped cold. Ava said something too low for me to catch. Then his voice again. You don't get to act rude and make this house tense and then pretend I'm the problem. My hand tightened around the folder so hard the paper edge cut into my palm. And I took 2 steps, then 3. By the time I reached the stairs, he was already coming down, and the second he saw me, his face changed. It softened, opened, became easy again. Hey, he said. You're home early. I looked past him. Ava was standing at the end of the hallway by the linen closet, pale, arms crossed tight over herself, phone clutched to her chest like she needed something in her hands so they wouldn't shake. What was that? I asked. Daniel gave a short laugh, controlled, small. Nothing. She snapped at me when I asked if she'd emptied the dishwasher. I told her attitude like that won't help her anywhere. Ava said nothing. I looked at her. Ava? She swallowed. I'm fine. By then, I hated those words. That night, Daniel rubbed my shoulders in bed and told me Ava had become sensitive lately. That maybe she resented rules. That maybe growing up unstable made her read conflict into everything. He said he worried I was getting pulled into the middle. He said he was trying. Manipulators do not always lie by inventing things. Sometimes they lie by handing you the interpretation they need you to believe. So I told myself not to become reckless, not to become one of those women who torch a marriage over a feeling. I told myself stress could twist anything. I told myself I needed something real. Then I found the first crack. And it happened because I was looking for a Walmart receipt. Just a stupid receipt for an air fryer that had died after 2 uses. That's all. I sat at the kitchen table with Daniel's old tablet because that was where we kept shared store emails. My laptop was updating. Rain was streaking the windows. And Ava was in class. Daniel was downtown at the office. I searched the inbox. A message preview slid up from the recently deleted folder. No subject line. Unknown number. The first line said, "You don't tell her unless you want to make things worse for both of you." I stared at the screen so long, the room seemed to tip. Then, I opened the folder. Most of it had already been deleted, but not all of it. There were fragments, commands, warnings, threats dressed up like advice. Be smart. Don't create drama in my house. You know what happens if families break apart because people can't control themselves. My house. My lungs went shallow. I called Ava once. No answer. Twice. No answer. The third time she picked up, voice tight. I'm in class. Come outside. Grace. Now. I drove through rain so hard the wipers sounded frantic. The parking lot behind the student center looked slick and silver under the afternoon sky. Ava climbed into the passenger seat with her backpack in her lap, took one look at my face, and froze. I turned the tablet toward her. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't pretend. She didn't say I was misunderstanding. She just went still. So still it was like her whole body had finally run out of places to hide. For 1 second she looked younger than she had at 14. "Is this him?" I asked. She started crying so quietly it broke something in me. Not loud crying, not movie crying. The kind where the chest barely moves because even grief has learned to stay small and careful. She covered her mouth with both hands and folded forward. Rain ticked against the windshield. A bus hissed at the curb across the lot. I reached toward her shoulder and she flinched before she could stop herself. That was the moment my marriage ended. Not in court, not on paper, not with witnesses, in reflex. I pulled my hand back slowly so she could see I understood. "You are safe with me." She kept shaking. "Ava, look at me." It took a few seconds. Her mascara had smeared under her eyes. Her lips looked almost colorless. And when she finally looked at me, there was so much apology in her face I wanted to put my fist through the windshield. "I didn't know how," she whispered. "How long?" She closed her eyes. "Months." I heard the rain, my own breathing, every morning I had missed. Every dinner table I had sat through smiling at a man who was using my house like a trap. "Tell me what I need to know." She didn't tell it cleanly. Trauma never does. It came in fragments. A look held too long, comments disguised as jokes, texts when I was at work, quiet cornering in hallways, standing too close, threats when she tried to avoid him, warnings that I was fragile, warnings that I needed my marriage, warnings that if she spoke, she would destroy me, that nobody would believe she was not trying to ruin my life, that people always blame the girl who stayed under the roof, that if she made trouble, he would say she lied because she was unstable like our mother. He learned her fears and fed them back to her like facts. He used the one thing she had finally been given, shelter, as leverage. I asked whether he had touched her. She shook harder, then nodded once. "I do not need to tell you more than that." The worst part was not the detail, it was the terror. She kept saying sorry. Sorry for being in the house, Sorry for not telling me. Sorry for making this real now. No. I said it so sharply she looked up. You do not apologize to me for surviving. She cried harder then, and this time I held my arms out slowly, carefully, like approaching something wounded that had already been taught to expect pain from hands. I let her choose. She came toward me in pieces, shivering even though the heat was on. Some betrayals split your life into before and after. Some show you the before was never safe at all. And I drove us to a hotel 30 minutes away off the interstate near a chain restaurant and a gas station with flickering lights. I paid with my business card because I didn't want a shared account notification hitting Daniel's phone. I booked her one room, took the room beside it. Then I called the one person I trusted who understood both silence and systems. My friend Lena was a family law attorney. We met 3 years earlier in line at the courthouse when I was filing documents for a real estate client and she was balancing a stack of custody paperwork and cursing under her breath about the copier. She could hear trouble in a person's breathing. She answered on the second ring. You sound like somebody died. Not yet, I said. She went quiet for half a beat, then, tell me where you are. By 9 that night, Elena was sitting across from me in the hotel room with legal pads, a laptop, and her hair pinned back in a low knot, asking questions so precise they felt surgical. Ava was asleep next door with the TV on because silence made her nervous now. We documented everything: dates, messages, behavior changes, shared device access, camera locations, bank activity, car logs, cloud backup settings, call history, work schedules, school schedules, the times I was gone, the windows he had used. Lena did not let me shatter. You can fall apart later, she said. Tonight, you build. So I built. I wrote until my hand cramped. We made a plan. Protection first, evidence second. No warning, no emotional confrontation that gave him time to destroy records, rewrite history, or perform sincerity for the first official voice in the room. Lena called an advocate she trusted. By midnight, I had changed the passwords on every shared account I could reach from my phone. Cloud storage, security cameras, Wi-Fi admin, credit card logins, utility account, door lock app. Daniel's face kept rising in my mind with that ordinary husband smile, and every time it did, I wanted to scream until my throat tore open. Instead, I made folders. The next morning, I drove back to the townhouse alone. The air was cold enough to sting. Frost traced the edge of the grass near the mailbox. My hands were steady by then, and that scared me more than rage would have. A woman who has stopped shaking is often the one who has decided. Daniel's car was gone. Good. I went room by room like an investigator through my own life. I copied front door footage and garage footage. I photographed the guest room. I checked the shared tablet again, his home office desk, the trash, the laundry room, the shelf in the closet where he kept chargers and old phones and the lockbox with tax records. I found a prepaid phone under a stack of HOA newsletters in his desk drawer. I found gift cards I had never seen. I found receipts from places he had no business being near on nights he said he worked late. And then I found a small notebook. Black cover, his handwriting inside. Sharp block letters, times written down, my commute, Ava's class schedule, my gym nights, grocery nights, days I stayed late for month-end closings. Control is rarely random. It is logistics with malice. I photographed everything, put everything back carefully. Nothing disturbed enough for him to feel it yet. And then I pulled the property file from the office cabinet, because the deed, mortgage statements, business records, and my notary seal were all there. The folder smelled like dust and paper and the lavender sachet I kept in the drawer. Seeing my own neat labels nearly undid me. Domestic order is no shield. A clean house cannot save you from a man who studies weakness like a craft. Near noon, Daniel texted, "Where are you?" "Running errands." A minute later, "Ava's not answering. Everything okay?" I stared at that. Everything okay? As if fear had not been the air he preferred. as if panic were not the furniture he had been arranging inside my home for months. I typed, she needed space. From what? That question told me almost everything. He still thought he had room, still thought distance could be talked down, and still thought my silence meant ignorance. I replied, school stress, I'm handling it. He sent a thumbs up, just that. That little emoji chilled me more than anger would have. For 3 more days, I let him believe he still had a chance to manage the narrative. I went home at normal hours. I kept my voice level. I said Ava was staying with a friend from school because she needed quiet to study. He asked one too many careful questions, but he kept his tone easy. At dinner, he watched me the way men watch weather, sensing pressure, calculating damage. Once he reached for my wrist and I nearly recoiled before I could hide it. He noticed. You've been off, he said. Tired. We should take a weekend, reset. Maybe. Our eyes held too long. He smiled first. That was the performance part. Lena filed for an emergency protective order. The advocate helped Ava prepare her statement. Law enforcement took the report more seriously than I had feared, and less gently than she deserved, but by then I cared more about precision than comfort. We had records. We had dates. We had the deleted threads. We had the second phone. We had the notebook. We had cloud backups. We had camera clips showing him positioning himself in hallways to intercept her when I was gone. And we had one more thing. A voice memo Ava had accidentally saved months earlier when she hit record instead of call. His voice on it was low, controlled, unmistakable. Do not test me. I listened once. Only once. Monsters are often most terrifying when they whisper. Then Lena found something else during a routine check, a prior complaint, another state. Years earlier. No charge filed. Not enough proof then. Plenty of charm probably, plenty of doubt. Plenty of some other woman being told she was misreading it, that she was dramatic, that she was confused, that she was about to ruin a good man. The second Lena told me that, I stopped blaming myself and started aiming. 4 days after the hotel, I asked Daniel to come home early. He walked in carrying takeout from the Thai place near his office, as if we were about to fix some ordinary marriage tension over curry and rice. The house was clean, lights warm, dishwasher humming. I chose that on purpose. Nothing prepares a liar for the moment his own stage turns on him. Lena was standing in the dining room with a file. A uniformed deputy stood near the entry. Daniel stopped dead in the foyer. So, what is this? I set my mug down on the table. No shaking, no screaming, no asking him to explain. Put the food on the counter. He looked at Lena, then the deputy, then me. Grace? Put it down. He obeyed. Because men like him trust calm most when they think it still belongs to them. He set the bag on the island and let out a short laugh, disbelieving. Want to tell me why there's a cop in our house? I held his gaze. This is my house. A flicker in his jaw. Small, but there. And you are leaving it tonight. He looked at the deputy again, maybe hoping male familiarity would save him. Then he turned back to me with that practiced expression of concern. Whatever Ava said, she's confused. He skipped denial at first. That interested me. I didn't ask you a question, I said. She's been unstable. You know her history. She reads things wrong, and I've tried to be patient because she's your sister. But this? You brought a deputy into our home over some story? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Case file is already in process. Emergency order is filed. We have the deleted messages, the second phone, the voice recording, the schedule notes, the camera clips. We have enough for the protective order and enough for the divorce filing. Your employer is being notified through counsel tomorrow because part of this happened on company time and devices. I took one breath. You are done. His face didn't explode. That would have been easier. It emptied, then hardened. The friendliness dropped away in strips. Not dramatic, not wild, just precise. Like a man setting down a mask he no longer needed. You are blowing up your life, he said, for a girl who has always wanted what was yours. The sentence was so filthy in its calculation that for a second my body forgot how to move. He saw that and stepped toward me. The deputy stepped too. Stop there! Daniel lifted his hands, all innocence. I'm just talking to my wife. No, I said. You're looking for the version of me that still needed help naming what you are. Lena slid the papers across the table. You've been served. He stared at them. Then the uglier version of him came fully into the room. You think anybody's going to believe she stayed in that house for months if it was so bad? I took one step closer. Enough for him to hear every word. Yes. I held his eyes. They will. Because I do. And because you counted on girls being easier to question than men in button-down shirts. He smiled then. Not kindly, not calmly, not like the husband from the Christmas card. Just mean. You'll regret this. No, I said. I regret breakfast tables. I regret holiday photos. I regret every second I wasted asking the wrong questions in my own house. I regret trusting a man who used my home as a hunting ground. The word landed inside me as I said it, hard, true, hunting ground. Because there are men who do not just want access, they want territory, they want silence, they want an audience to their innocence. He tried every version after that. Ava misunderstood. I was manipulated. Lena was opportunistic. The deputy was overreaching. Then he switched to injury, then outrage, then wounded husband, then brittle pleading that we should handle this privately. Private was where he kept his power. Public was where it died. He left with a duffel bag, escorted, angrier at exposure than consequence. He paused once on the porch under the yellow light, coat half zipped, and looked back at me like he expected something soft at the end. Some wives do that. Some men build their whole lives around the hope that women will confuse mercy with morality. I locked the door in his face. Then I pressed my forehead against the wood and finally let my body shake. Not because I doubted, because certainty hurts. Sometimes more than confusion. The weeks after that were paperwork, statements, sleeplessness, bad coffee, and fluorescent offices with chairs designed by people who hate the human spine, family court, advocate meetings, police follow-ups, a forensic pull on the prepaid phone, bank separation, credit freezes, new locks, a locksmith invoice clipped to my fridge with a magnet from a local HVAC company. Lena moved through forms and deadlines like a blade. I moved like a woman carrying glass in her chest. Daniel's employer placed him on administrative leave. Then came the formal separation. Some mutual friends disappeared the second the story got inconvenient. Others showed up with casseroles, extra blankets, and the stunned expression people wear when they realize charm fooled them too. My aunt called and cried. My cousin offered to sleep on the couch for a week if I wanted company. And our neighbor from 2 doors down, the one who always complained about HOA mailbox rules, brought banana bread and said she had never liked the way Daniel watched people instead of listening to them. That line stayed with me. Watched people instead of listening. Yes, exactly that. His family tried a softer campaign. Confusion, misunderstanding, requests for compassion. A message from his sister said I was destroying a good man over allegations. Lena answered that one for me. 3 paragraphs, 2 attachments, absolute silence after. Ava stayed with Lena's cousin for a while, then with me again once the protective order was active and the house felt structurally ours. The first night she came back, and she stood in the guest room doorway holding a laundry basket and asked if she could move the bed away from the wall because she wanted to be able to see the whole room when she woke up. I said yes immediately. Then I went into my bathroom, shut the door, and cried into a hand towel because trauma changes stupid things. It changes where a person wants the bed, how wide a hallway feels, which floorboard sounds safe, Whether a locked door comforts or traps, healing is not pretty. It is repetitive, slow, messy, sometimes rude. Ava started therapy twice a week. I started too. We learned words for what had happened: hypervigilance, coercive control, grooming, shame displacement, trauma response, survival adaptation. Sometimes the language steadied me. Sometimes it only made the whole thing feel more organized. Yet more deliberate, more evil in its neatness. One evening in July, almost 6 months after the hotel, we went to a neighborhood barbecue for the 4th. Kids were shrieking through sprinkler water in red, white, and blue swimsuits. The air smelled like charcoal, sunscreen, and cheap fireworks already being tested too early. Ava laughed at something the little boy next door said about hot dogs and aliens. I looked over so fast I startled her. She touched her own mouth like she was checking whether the laugh had actually happened. Then she did it again. Small, real, unforced. Light comes back in fragments. That's the truth nobody tells you. You do not always recognize healing when it starts. Sometimes you notice because a person asks for a second slice of pizza. Sometimes because she leaves her bedroom door open. Or sometimes because she forgets to scan the room before speaking. The divorce finalized in October. The courthouse smelled like wet coats, copier toner, and old paper. Daniel kept his eyes on the table most of the time, which was almost disappointing. Part of me had wanted visible wreckage, something cinematic, some obvious collapse. But men like him often look ordinary all the way through the ruin. The real punishment was structural: restrictions, records, loss, reputation burned away where he had spent years polishing it. When Ava and I walked back through the parking deck afterward, she slipped her hand into mine. She had not done that since she was little. "Do you hate me?" she asked quietly. "For how long it took?" I stopped on the concrete ramp between levels. Cars echoed overhead. My purse strap dug into my shoulder. Said the city air smelled like exhaust and wet stone. "No." She looked at me carefully. Like comfort might still come with a condition attached. I held her gaze. "I hate what fear did to you. I hate what he did to this house. I hate that I learned too slowly." I took a breath. "But I will not put 1 ounce of his filth on your shoulders." Her eyes filled. She did not look away. "I thought I was protecting you," she said. "You were doing what frightened people do to survive." Then I told her the sentence I had spent months earning. "Now let me protect you back." There are words that do not fix a thing, but they lay down boards over places that used to split open under your feet. By Christmas, the townhouse smelled like cinnamon candles and fresh paint, because I redid the guest room in a warmer color and replaced the upstairs bathroom lock and the hallway runner. Not because locks are evil, because some objects carry too much memory to deserve your daily hand. Ava helped me hang new curtains. We laughed over a crooked shelf. We ruined one batch of sugar cookies because I forgot the timer and talked too long while icing the second tray. The house felt different. Not innocent, honest. There is a difference. I used to think safety looked like routine. Mortgage paid, grocery list on the fridge, a husband home by 6, a clean kitchen, matching stockings on the mantel. But safety is not a decor style. It is not a marriage license. It is not a man other people approve of. Then safety is being believed when the truth costs something. Safety is a sister speaking without lowering her voice. Safety is a home where nobody has to disappear to get through dinner. One spring morning, almost a year after that parking lot, I was back in the kitchen with coffee in my hand when Ava came downstairs wearing leggings and one of my old college t-shirts, hair messy, face loose with the softness of real sleep. Sunlight hit the banister. Birds were making a racket outside. The whole house smelled like pancakes and clean soap. She opened the fridge, glanced over at me, and said, casual as weather, "Can we go to Target later? I need shampoo." It was such a normal sentence I nearly broke apart right there. Because normal can be holy after terror. I smiled instead. Yeah, I said. And Starbucks after. She grinned. Not careful, not measured, not that thin little survival smile. A real one. Daniel had thought fear would keep one sister silent and love would keep the other blind. He had mistaken kindness for weakness, routine for cover, privacy for power. He thought he could turn my own home into a sealed room where truth would rot before it reached daylight. He was wrong. What he built depended on silence. What destroyed him was two women refusing to carry it any longer. And before I finish, let me say this the way I would if we were sitting across from each other with coffee between us. If you've ever ignored that feeling because the house looked normal, if you've ever told yourself it couldn't be what it looked like because the person seemed too ordinary, too polite, too trusted, as if you've ever been the girl who stayed quiet because somebody convinced you the truth would cost too much, I see you, I really do. And if this story is hitting you anywhere deep, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if it feels honest to do that. Not because I need numbers, because stories like this survive by being heard. And I want to know where you're listening from too. Tell me in the comments. Tell me what part stayed with you. Tell me if you've ever had to relearn what safety looks like. Because sometimes the most dangerous people are not the loudest ones. Sometimes they are the most believable ones. That is what I learned. And this is the part I hold on to now. He did not get to keep the house he poisoned. He did not get to keep the version of us he tried to trap inside it. Yet he did not get to keep the silence. Ava laughs now, leaves doors open now, sleeps through some nights all the way until morning. Not every night. Healing does not move in straight lines, but enough nights, enough mornings, enough truth. And me, I still stand in that kitchen sometimes with coffee in my hand and sunlight on the cabinets and think about the woman I was before I knew. The woman who thought danger had to arrive looking like danger. The woman who kept almost listening. The woman who kept needing proof because instinct felt too flimsy to trust. I don't hate her. I grieve her. And I thank God she finally listened when the truth stopped whispering. Because in the end, this was not the story of a man destroying us. It was the story of him failing. Failing to keep her small. Failing to keep me blind. Failing to keep what he did in the dark. He counted on shame. He counted on confusion. He counted on love making me easier to manipulate. Instead, love made me dangerous to him. Because once I knew, I did not look away. Once she spoke, I did not ask her to say it prettier. Once the truth entered the room, I built around it, protected it, carried it into daylight with both hands. And that is why my house is still standing. Not because bad things never entered it, because when they did, we stopped pretending they belonged there. So yes, we went to Target later. And yes, we got Starbucks after. And it was ordinary. Ridiculously ordinary. Shampoo, paper towels, a candle neither of us needed, a coffee order I could recite from memory. But when she laughed in the parking lot and tossed her keys into her tote and asked whether we should get tacos for dinner too, I looked at her and thought, this is what he tried to steal. Not just safety, not just trust, not just years. This, the stupid, beautiful, ordinary future. And he didn't get it. He didn't get her voice. He didn't get my home. He didn't get the rest of our lives. That part is ours.